Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Inshallah, today we will present to you uh, a topic about uh, the scholastic period that we translate from the book, that name Qissatul Falsafah Al Hadithah. My name is Ahmad Asfar bin Zubairi, and my number metric number is 054653. Before the scholastic period, uh, before it goes to scholastic period, during the Middle Age, the continent of Europe was divided into a number of small states, including the weak states that keep fully armed, killing each other as it bear a grudge against themselves and bear the corruption in their hearts. All of those states were obeying the Romanian government, which exerted its authority and conquered by them. Since the actual power was not then political emanating from the state, rather it was religious and possessed the seized reigns, and it has the supreme word when it comes to the matter, until they crushed every form of life and activity. Next. Europe in the 10th century was nothing but a complete darkness in which ignorance pervaded and spilled into the heads as many myths as desired. That dark cloud began to crumble somewhat with what emerged from the treasures of science that were still buried in their deposits in Greece. So what was covered by dust was removed when the Crusades War returned what was the weakness between Western Empire and Eastern Empire from the connections, and dispelled the luster from the darkness of the 10th century. Then the West sent a trophy of a flag that was overflowing with their counsel. Then it sent out to the heart of Europe and sharpened philosophical thought from it and raised it until strength and life gazed in it. It was this appearance that we call it school philosophy. However, it was not a coherent school of philosophy like the school of Plato, that is rather scattered philosophical efforts made the scholar or the teacher, and they were the clergy, whom the dean men who took the reins of philosophy and made it into the seriousness of the church alone. So that they could use it in religious affairs. Perhaps they will find it in it a support of logic and a pillar of reason for their faith.
Next is my name is Muhammad Azlan Hushairi bin Marfaat. My number metric is 054788. So today I'm talking about the what is scholastic philosophy. Scholastic is an adjective or schools, which means schools, a school or school. According to the D. Wolf Saken, scholastic philosophy is a philosophy as a system in achieving all natural knowledge, which is entered into a higher synthesis between belief and reason. So, philosophy in the scholastic era is not just theology, and theology is nothing but philosophy. And scholastic philosophers are those who study theology as a structured scientific example. The subject of research in which the rise of violent debate and the first increased competition between scholars and scholastic philosophy, the subject of universal faculty, as people hardly translate this expression. So, there are four factors of scholastic. Uh, Number one is schools in medieval times. School in medieval times in the form of institutions that teach on the effort of monasteries, church, and also the court. Second, a lesson plan that shows clear signs that the medieval school was not only descended from the church, mostly also descended from monasteries. At school, in general, arts and religious teachings are taught. Third, the teaching method is very simple. In the 12th century, the way of debate became popular because of the efforts of Laertius Abelard. This debate lasted from 14 to 3 months. Lastly, there are four factors that determine the style of scholastic philosophy. As for the factors that can determine the style of scholastic philosophy, there are four parts: Latin, Greek, Arabic, and Hebrew.
Next, my name is Hazra Ibn Azmi. My number metric is 054509. So I will continue the discussion. The conceptualism, even it is not real, but we can concept it on our mind. Abelard said that even though there is no explanation for physical representation, but it has mental representation. For example, if you say to someone to stand up or sit down, it means it just a simple word and have no meaning because it just a word and do not represent the activity behavior. It just us that say like that. So the majority of this word is just nonsense and no meaning. So Christianity is nominalism. They will argue that it is not represent any physical present. That means there is no the Lord of the Father, the Lord of the Son, and the Lord of the Holy Spirit. They said that there is nothing like that in reality that really represent these three because it is reality. It is not mathematical and not logical. But according to the realism Christianity, they believe that it is possible one thing can represent three things. For example, a woman have three representation. The first is being a daughter, second being a wife, third being a mother. So it is same one person and have these three characteristics. For the conclusion, they argue each other and there is a serious war between them. The nominalism won and become more popular in the end. So we continue to the era of the Plato scholastic. The philosophy of the Plato expand in the beginning of the medieval era, where the nominalism idea became the most popular, and they also control the community. So this nominalism is the foundation from which the thinkers took their idea and become of this idea or the thinkers they built their school at that time. Famous people during this Plato scholastic era is John Scotus Erigena, who was born in Ireland during 800 and died during 870.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum. My name is Muhammad Adha Hafiz Ahmad. Matrix number 054556. Alright, I would like to continue the slide. As we know that we are talking about the famous people is about John Scotus Erigena. So the first opinion from him is God's knowledge. He view that God is the beginning and the end of things. Indeed, his purity is sufficient that it is not bound by boundaries and there is none other than him. God had possesses this world and made him medium as the beginning of knowing him. What you see on something is one of the kind of strength, light, and intellect and the rest is something contain covering part of something. Everything is a ray of his rays. Inevitably, that the end of the journey of the world being intended purpose. Then union with God is the habit of something new. Erigener mentions in his book Taqsimul Tabi'ah that the proper strength is in the unity of existence. The Arabic say wahdatul wujud. So he determines or dominion over other than him. He stretches this world is a medium that reveals his existence him in everything. If every creature is said to be part of the essence of God, then it is void, except on the path on the part of way. Next, Strocher's view that the universal is like some kind of thinking. It is the basic of the main fact that show his existence with himself. Then he revised from him parts of an world, which is the original existence. So this is the creation of the existence of a materialistic component. The world of this philosophy, indeed, everything shows a lot of perfection in his reality and existence. While the will of God is generally very broad and perfect in nature. From here comes all beings. Happen that the creature is different in its expression from what God wants, whether it is a form of form or has been attributed to one type, such as Zaid, Imran, Khalid, who is part type of name of human beings, not the others. Likewise, everything will not happen other than his will. So everything in this world is a way for the manifestation of his existence. Existence. This world is like the unity of his existence. The end of the observation of nature is something. There is a diversity of beings. God has stated the height of his rank as God publishes the realm of angel, angel from the realm he created in the name of God's own nature. It means the world and partly published the outward nature of the senses. This is a small part of the fact that something is really his creation from the nature of nature.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Amir Zaki Muzkifli, number metric 054869. As we know, that John Scatus Erigena, a popular philosopher who that he very skilled in many theory and thinkings. So in theory of knowledge, he was carrying the same methodology and theory, especially in knowledge. John Scatus follow in establishing creation of the nature. We call it the creature from God. He gave the same explanation or theory of knowledge. We call it a concept of knowledge or epistemologies of knowledge. John Scatus was exhibit in theory of knowledge with the same way in his theory. He was then his theory explaining the creation through the emergence of things from God and then returning to them again. Okay, so by this he was a proponent of wahdatul wujud. Wahdatul wujud, he believed that things generation from God that is from yani is mean kulliyah. Akbarul kulliyah is mean God. From the highest order, and they go down bit a bit. If we refer the book Qisah Al-Falsafatul Hadisah, they ask min a'la ila al-asfal. A'la is mean God. Al-Kulliyatul Akbar is mean God. So we can see that clearly to the theory or the ways that John Scotus took a path in theory of knowledge. He also sees and believes that the race should be start from the top and move to down. It's mean in Arabic we call it min a'la ila al-asfal. A'la is mean al-juz'iyatul akbar. It mean God. Al-juz'iyah wa al-makhluqat. The creation. Next. If the soul reach that sublime level, it's able by meditating to unite with God, and it's a goal and beyond the sense and the mind together. It's not available except by meditations. Indeed, the soul be able to unite it with God and be able profoundly or deeply know itself. So it's must be combined together. This connection by creator and creations. We call it combined together. We call it is ma'rifah. We call it in Arabic nazariyatul ma'rifah, the theory of knowledge. We move to the other theory, knowledge, from the influenced by the philosophy of Plato and Serms and others. And he attained from the shrewdness of the male after the reputation that he became known among his contemporaries is the same in the name Second Augustine in his life. In his life, he was an ideal for the schoolman, for people to take example or take him as a model. As for philosophy, indeed, he began by claiming that reason and belief are not mutually exclusive and that the mind must be enlightened by the light of faith because the mind is weak by itself. So John Scatus is carry the theory of knowledge. It mean must be combined together with al-aqlu, yani mind with we call it combine together. It is ma'rifah. Ma'rifah, we call it is ma'rifah. The highest other from the kulliyat, yani al-akbar al-juz'iyah is mean God, to lower others, yani al-juz'iyah, the creature, particular individual. Uh, that's all from us. Wallahu alam.